I began my career in digital education. It was a way of making sure that people get access to learning tools online. That took me to Google's business department at their headquarters in Europe. I worked between there and California, and the goal was to learn how does a great organization function, how do great teams function, but probably more importantly, how do the world's smartest people learn. My work right now is about helping secondary schools, about helping high schools, that's what we call them here, high schools think about how do they prepare their students for the future of work. When I got my first, corporate job in what is understood at the world's best company, I still felt that there's something in all of us that tries to find meaning at work, that tries to find purpose at work. Previous generations might call this a luxury idea, that you just need to arrive and you get your check and you go home. Newer generations are asking some questions about why are we here? A Life Design Lab meant that people are asking not what will they do when they graduate, but why will they work when they graduate? When you see societies, when you see governments talking about ideas like universal basic income, you understand that we're kind of arriving at a time where we may not necessarily be working for money anymore. Elon Musk was at a talk in Dubai maybe 18 months ago. And he said, look, in a future that's not very far from now, there'll be very few jobs that a human can do better than a robot. So we need to think about a time where work will not consume all of our lives. We need to think about a time where we will not be working all the time to make money. And we need to think about that time and ask ourselves, in what then will we find meaning? Jack Ma from Alibaba, which is the Amazon of the East, a billion-dollar company in that region of the world, he was asked at the World Economic Forum, what skills do our kids need to learn for the future? And he said, in short, we need to think about those skills that robots will never be able to acquire. We need to think about those attributes that make us human, that elevate us. We need to think about empathy. He used the word empathy. Kindness, compassion, love. Probably the next 3 to 4 years, the major focus will be artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning, data analysis. These are the topics that are kind of keeping us busy and that are keeping CEOs' budgets filled, right? So after that, after we perfect the tech, what happens to the human? This is what I'm interested in. And this is where I think the next wave of work is headed. There are basic building blocks of knowledge, and then there's applications of knowledge. The basic building blocks of knowledge is your maths, your science, your biology, etc. We have to learn these. We will always have to learn these. Elon Musk says that, it's like, look, you'll never be able to explain anything fully if you're always focused on the leaf of knowledge. You don't know which branch it came from. You don't know anything about the trunk of that knowledge. You know nothing about the soil of that knowledge. We need to kind of go up that tree and get to first principles thinking. Where did this come from? What does this mean? So there is huge value in this kind of education continuing. Is it enough? Obviously the answer is no, because we need to think about how this knowledge connects, right? So we need to be able to have classes that are, in a sense, connecting all of these topics to find out how they apply. We need to be layering our curriculums with new ideas, right? This is what I spend my time doing in Joburg with schools. This is what brought me here, is a conversation around how do we stretch our thinking into how this applies? How does this apply to future careers? What does this actually mean for us? And most certainly, we need to do that. I think you'll find that there's schools that are popping up, so-called new age schools. Traditional schools seem to focus on values. It's been the foundation of what has driven them for years. Those new age schools are very relevant as far as tech and design and what's happening entrepreneurially, but you need to marry these ideas, right? So I think we're looking to a future where secondary schools across the world, high schools across the world, need to up their game. They need to think differently about what should they look like over the next decade, right? And stretch their thinking in that respect. What is intelligence exactly? What is human intelligence? I watch a lot of videos by this guy called Sir Ken Robinson. He says that there's 5 kinds of intelligence that make us human. The first is intellectual intelligence. Those are aspects of cognition, of intellectual intelligence. That is also what mainstream education and business and society is focused on as far as rating you as a smart person or an intelligent person. It sits within the realm of that. Which, by the way, is not a problem. It's just a small piece of what makes us human. The second kind of intelligence is called emotional intelligence. How many of you have heard of emotional intelligence? Right, that should be everybody. Because it's something that we hear about so much that we think we actually know what it is. We know very little of how it works in practice. When you get into the workplace, and I think your parents can confirm this, the CEO has probably read Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, then he or she decides to run a 2-day class for employees. On Sunday, you are not emotionally intelligent. By Wednesday afternoon, you're supposed to be emotionally intelligent. The third is physiological intelligence. The fourth kind of intelligence is what we call intuitive intelligence, right? Being able to make decisions without analyzing. You won't have an opportunity to do a full analysis on everything that could possibly be extraordinary in your life. The fifth kind of intelligence is what we call spiritual intelligence. What do we mean by that? What we mean by that is that there is an aspect of you that makes you human beyond your mind-made self. So, I think we know that these are aspects of intelligence that a robot cannot mimic. These are the intelligences that help us realize our greatest levels of human creativity. These are the aspects of intelligence. These are all the intelligences that your future employers will hope that you have so that you can help them navigate their future uncertain paths. I would say to young people, get a sense of what kind of shifts are happening in the world and prepare to be a part of those shifts, but also to understand that you are contributing to those shifts and creating them in your process of being a student. I think more so than ever, young people will be a part of shaping future economies and societies. There are big brands, there are companies, there are designers that look to platforms like Instagram to find out what is the zeitgeist, what is the spirit of the time, what is the collective consciousness to understand how we should design the next version of our world. This is where young people are sharing their thoughts. So in a big way, they're a part of that process. And I would say, how might they own that process? Know that they are not a victim to it, but a part of contributing to it.